Días a todos y todas. Sean muy bienvenidos
Good morning to each and every one of you. Welcome to this virtual panel of conversation, present and future of entrepreneurship in rural innovation.
Quisiera partir por dar la más cordial bienvenida.
Valeria Oberheaven will be moderating this event. I would
Recording in
like to
progress.
start by extending a warm welcome to those who are with us, Ishamen Elofi, and our expert panelists in the subject that convenes us today, Maria Teresita Di Marco, Ecosystem Development Manager of Yield Yap, Christian O'Ryan, entrepreneur of Enduric Electric, and Mr. Fabian Chafino, Executive Director, Fundación Mapocho. I would also like to thank and extend a special greeting to our audience composed by FAO members, academics, entrepreneurs, NGO members, students, technicians, and administrators, and those interested, and all those interested in innovation of rural entrepreneurship of agri-food systems. I would like to invite, in addition to the attendees that are mentioning their place of origin in the chat, now it is an honor for me to introduce FAO Assistant Director General Mario Lubetkin, who could not be present but left us a video with opening remarks. Of science and innovation, which has a particular emphasis on the participation of the youth, will be without a doubt the path towards transformation of the agro-food systems, since we will have the opportunity to listen and learn from their input to create a better future in agriculture. Invite you to see innovation as a catalyzer of the significant development of rural communities. And it is to listen to the voices of the young and youth. We will be charging to the challenges that they face and the solutions that are provided to and begin inclusively and innovative entrepreneurship of possible participation. The world figures on food, hunger, and others that are affecting the world require efficient results that will support the rural territory. Latin America and the Caribbean, it represents 10% of an exporting food at the world level. However, this growth it does not have access to capital and technology. Fisheries, farmers are constantly struggling to access resources and services in situations that are even more concerning when we talk about youth, women, indigenous people. Therefore, the need to generate change is immediate and urgent. The situation is taking strength in the regions, but the benefits are not reaching totally the rural areas. From FAO, we are convinced through the innovation and through entrepreneurship, youth can be a part of the transformation of agro-food systems and guarantee at the same time zones that are whether independent or gender or ethnic group or economic background. We need to listen, particularly you, the youth, your energy, commitment, and willingness to innovate are extremely significant to achieve agro-food systems that are more resilient, more inclusive, and more sustainable. I wish you success in this event and in the jobs that are coming ahead of us. We hope to see you in the Fora of Science and Innovation that will be carried out in October at FAO. Thank you very much and lead on.
continuación, quiero presentar
Next, I would like to introduce Ms. Ishmani Eloafi from Rome, who invites us today to address the audience.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be with you today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be in a meeting with you in this fora of science and innovation this year of 2023 for the regional event in Latin America and the Caribbean. Last week, we were a part of the regional event in the north of Africa and the Middle East. These regional events will be leading the science and innovation to 2023 at FAO, which my colleague Mario was referring to, which will be carried out in the FAO in Rome from the 16th to the 20th of October of this year. The aspect of innovation is science and innovation for climate action. All the events with this title will have a component of sustainability in the environment and social context. Within that regional event, we hope we will create a constructive debate about the technological agricultural development of agriculture in the region with a multidisciplinary team with key actors, leaders of innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, science, technology and innovation are a powerful engine to transform the agro-food systems and malnutrition and hunger. It should go in hand with solid organizations, adequate governance and regulatory frameworks to support and effective measures to promote equality amongst players in the agro-food system. The strategy of science and innovation at FAO in the 2023 agenda for the sustainable development, and it is reflected in objectives and indicators of the SDGs. The objective of this strategy, which I have a great pleasure of working with a great deal of colleagues at FAO, but with the use of our colleagues and stakeholders, the objective is to take advantage of science and innovation to achieve solutions that are systematic in nature and specific for systems that are agro-food and that are more efficient and more inclusive and more resilient and sustainable for a better production, a better nutrition, a better environment, and improving livelihoods without leaving anyone behind. The strategy takes on all the different sectors and areas of the agro-food systems, as such agriculture, livestock, forestry, fish, and aquaculture, from the management of natural resources all the way to the production itself, storage, transport, trade, consumption, and waste management. FAO recognizes the need for technological innovation, but also social, political, regulatory, financial, and institutional. The knowledge of indigenous people and the small-scale producers is recognized as an important source of innovation for the agro-food systems, and it is considered within the scope of our strategy. We need to be more innovative when we talk about scientific research and find methodologies that we take the knowledge at the local level, the knowledge of producers and the people of indigenous nature. It is especially centered on the needs of countries of low and middle income, centered around the small-scale producers, the family farming, the indigenous people, women, youth, and other players that are subrepresented in the agri-food process, including the micro, small, and medium-sized companies, to accelerate the progress towards the achievement of SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, to implement the strategies of science and innovation, FAO is developing the action plan. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the action areas are communication of science, developing capacities in science and innovation, and promotion investments from the public stage in innovation systems. I'm very pleased also to see that the region is developing the projects of cooperative entrepreneurship, AgTech, led by the team of innovation and science for Latin America and the Caribbean, that seeks to promote the social, environmental, economic promotion in rural area to foster employment, income, livelihoods, and sustainable development. This initiative, aligned with Science Innovation Department by FAO from 2022 to 2031, seeks to benefit the small-scale farmers, youth in rural areas of Latin America and the Caribbean. This cooperative internship seeks capacity, science, and innovation in the action plan of the region. The FAO also has other initiatives of science and innovation in the entire world. The initiative of 1,000 areas of diversified areas, the economies of rural nature connects them to the dynamic market. Access to digital tools can also empower the rural areas, benefiting approximately 77 million people that are lacking access to internet. Therefore, 1,000 digital aldeas promotes local tourism to generate improvement and employment in rural areas. The transformation of the territories in the rural areas and will contribute to the efficiency of use of resources, environmental stage, and of course, the well-being of rural areas. The 1,000 digital aldeas as cooperative AgTech seeks to benefit rural communities of the territories in the region through science and innovation. Both are examples of social sustainability led by our institution that seeks to take on the inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean. These are digital villages or communities. In the resource of my office is a new product that is being set forth by the innovation in agro-food systems. What we call ATIO, Agri-Food Technology and Innovation Outlook. This initiative was launched by the Director General of FAO during the Fora of Science and Innovation in October of 2022. The objective of ATIO is to recollect information that exists on the current status that's measurable in science, technology, and innovation, and the future changes and its potential to change based on policies, based on evidence, including investments in public and private areas. The recollection of this data will be analyzed in 4 different stages of the development of science, technology, and innovation. This will benefit all the regions with data and assessments at the current level that are dispersed and incomplete. And what we're trying to do is provide this information to all countries so that they may have good policies, good regulations, but above all, good public and private investments in these technologies and innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to conclude by wishing you a very fruitful discussion. I hope that we can all contribute significantly to the transformation of agro-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean using science and innovation, particularly innovation in the digital arena. I wish I could be with all of you, but I am delighted to see that we have this pre-fora for the region so that we are prepared for October of 2023 and that we see many of you in Rome in October of 2023. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctora Eloafi, por compartir.
Thank you, Dr. Eloafi.
Ahora es el momento de comenzar el diálogo.
We will now begin the dialogue with our panelists. We ask the audience to use the different channels that we have available at FAO. We will be awaiting your questions in order to pass them on to our experts. Our first panelist is Teresita Di Marco. She's a specialist in sustainability. Teresita works at the Yield Lab Institute, developing ecosystems that promote the adoption of technology and innovation in the agribusiness sector of Latin America and the Caribbean. Our second panelist is Christian Orion. He's a founder of Endurance Electric and Palta 3. He seeks to accelerate resilience to climate change in communities and help others generate positive impact. He defines himself as a creative and optimist person about the future. Fabián Chefino is our third speaker. He's the executive director of Fundación Mapocho, member of the Youth New Network of International Cooperative Alliance, and professor of the Universidad del Desarrollo. To begin, our background is that Latin America and the Caribbean represent 14% of the world's production of agricultural and fishery products, as well as being the main net exporter of food on the planet. However, it is the region with the greatest inequality, where few benefit from the great riches of land and sea. This year, the region will complete a 10-year cycle of stagnation and setbacks in rural poverty and extreme poverty. FAO recently presented the first science and innovation strategy, as was stated by our head scientist, with the conviction that technology based on innovation is an accelerator to generate changes in production of agri-food systems. With this background, we will begin with questions directed to our panelists. The first question for Teresita Di Marco. How can technology-based innovation transform agri-food systems for better forestry, agriculture, and fisheries production? And what benefits have they brought to agri-food system? Teresita, please. Good morning. Thank you all for the invitation that once again at FAO, it is organized to access and promote solutions.
Debatir y conversar para encontrar soluciones específicas
to
a lo que nos atañe hoy, que es la problemática
take on the topics of the small-scale producer innovation.
Cuando a mí me preguntan sobre el tema de la innovación de base tecnológica,
when we talk about
alimentarios,
changing the solutions,
retomar es el tema de cómo se vienen dando las revoluciones.
is how these occurrences are taking place. We have different industrial, third industrial revolution has been begun with digital systems, communications, and these are seeds for what we are transiting right now, what we call this fourth industrial revolution. This fourth industrial revolution transforms the sectors of society, and we can reach this transformation with agriculture of agro systems in the hand of progress, innovation, technology, and also go deep into the different areas. When we talk about innovation particularly, we're talking about a process that the social players create value through knowledge. And when we talk about innovation, we have to take into account the specific aspects of this generation of knowledge, because the agro industry, given its nature, it takes biological cycles where the processes have a constant learning, constant adaptation, and the complexity of agro industry has the creation of various players so that we can allow for innovation. And another very important characteristic of this innovation is that it goes through the study to being adopted. These are very long processes that require innovation by various players. So the specific challenges that we face from agro innovation advances in the hands of entrepreneurs that are motivated to overcome a challenge that is linked to their societies and communities, specific challenges that they seek solutions through innovation. Today, we know somehow that the success of this process depends largely in that this entrepreneur finds themselves in ecosystems and systems that are optimum, where the different players will have access to improvement and achieve the results that they expect. These ecosystems that are so important to underline play an outstanding model in the development at the regional level. This has been amply documented through research that has been carried out in various countries. However, in countries like Latin America and the Caribbean, where ecosystems are immature, it is seen that there's a specific need to improve these ecosystems, involve all the players. So the opportunities are being seen because we see in other ecosystems where the entrepreneur finds the possibilities to develop and overcome their challenges and improve innovation and impact the agro-food systems. This is why the promotion of innovation ecosystems is one of the key aspects that we must signal and improve that they are sustainable and support farmers to implement all the challenges that they face at the rural level.
Muchísimas gracias, Teresita.
Thank you very much, Teresita. And now continuing with you, do you think that innovation based on technology can help fight poverty in rural sectors of the region?
Perdón, hay numerosos estudios que han demostrado.
Yes, there are several studies. The agriculture is very important in reduction of poverty and inequality, and also the responsibility that we have in the sector to achieve food security. We have producers that have a very important matrix that recent studies have shown that this produces 29% of the food in the world. And that produces about a fourth of the agricultural lands of the world. So this is a call of attention that is very important to understand how important the producers are, the smaller producers, and how we need to put them closer to new opportunities. So we can contribute to several objectives: the economy, reduction of poverty, food security, adoption of practices in sustainable agriculture, revalorization of agriculture, family agriculture can renew important benefits, not only for the environment, but also for all society, communities, small communities, rural communities, and small agriculture communities as well. Now, there are several fronts in which the adoption of technology can help the small producers in rural areas. Technology has to be observed as a tool of democratization of opportunities. And this is because we know that small producers are very challenged with access to credit and eliminated middle people for selling their products and the possibility of financing the purchase of their inputs and getting better inputs for production. Technology, innovation, digitalization comes to save these gaps, to close them, and to really democratize the opportunities for the agro production. Innovation is going to put closer the new solutions to small producers. And that is where we need to think about how the impact can be translated into economic growth for the rural communities. Thank you very much for this great overview. Now, the next question is for Mr. Chafino, and it's, why do you think it's so important that innovations or changes come with a regenerative approach? Hello, everyone. I am Fabian. Well, I'm very happy to be able to be here, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk about these aspects at a regional level. They're very important for the future challenges, because when we talk about regeneration, we're not just talking about the present. For a long while already, we have been talking about sustainability and how to generate more sustainable processes. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is not just how we need to generate sustainable processes for today, but processes that are sustainable for the future and that make us be in charge of what we have generated up to now with the damage that we have produced to our environment. So when we talk about regeneration, what we're more interested about is to understand how the companies can be in charge of not just reducing the damage, but also how we can regenerate the ecosystem in which they are inserted. And I think that there's an important role there, not just from the government, from the state, and from the public policies, but from the companies and from the small producers as well. They can have an important role in regenerating our ecosystem, in giving back the nutrients and the capability of self-generate. And that way the world can keep on existing, not just for us, but for the future generations as well. I was hearing yesterday that in East, in Asia, they're having high temperatures. So humans can inhabit in a world of up to 71 degrees, and they're having up to 50 degrees Celsius. So what can we do from our companies, from our commercial areas, to make the world a more a place that is better for the human beings to live in? So we need to use different processes, not the ones that have eroded our lands and that have damaged our systems. In our cultures, in our original cultures, probably the production processes that they used were much friendlier, and they were self-generated to produce better wealth for the future. So how can we learn from that original culture that we have in Latin America to be able to have better entrepreneurships for the future? And I think that that's what we're talking about when we talk about regeneration. Thank you very much, Fabian, for your great explanation. Now I'm going to ask one of the key questions to understand this conversatory. This question goes again to Mrs. DeMarco. So based on your experience in GiveLab Latam, why the benefits of AgTech are not reaching the small-scale producers in the area? Well, this question is a question that I really like. It really motivates me.
tecnología de la FAO en Chile.
Since last year, with the FAO office, I was contacted with them and they asked this question, but to make up, to elaborate reports, because seeing the different mechanisms of different organizations that were very accurate, they were saying that technology and that innovation does not get to small producers. So we started wondering why. What happens that it doesn't get to them? So we started working on a study and we made a report about the situation of small producers in different countries. And what we concluded was very interesting. I am going to focus on 3 points that are the ones that called my attention the most. And I really want to address that so that we can understand clearly why the benefits are not getting to the small producers. The first one is, and this is in general terms, right? I'm talking about entrepreneurs. We have the social entrepreneurs. We have a big mass of entrepreneurs that are looking for specific solutions for this area, small producers. But I'm going to talk in a more general way. And we saw that entrepreneurs do not know about the real challenges that small producers have. And this is because many of the producers arise in city environments, in academic environments that are far away from the rural world. And that is why we see the difference with the rural entrepreneur, with the entrepreneur that is born in a community, with a person that is motivated. It's a person that is motivated with a problem that is bad for them every day, different to somebody that comes from a university or an incubator. These spaces are far away from the reality, from the real challenges in the rural world. So that is the point that makes me understand why the solutions are not getting to the small producers yet. So there's a lack of synchronization between the real need of the producer and the solutions that come from the academic world. So there's another big challenge that I want to highlight, and it's the business models. Most of the business models that we see today in the sectors are models that are not adapted to match the needs of the small producer. The business models are business models that many times are boosted by the need of getting financing. So they come from looking for other types of business models in which they can be safeguarded in a way. So this is a point that is very important. From organizations such as the FAO, we can work on that. So financing for the sector of entrepreneurs that are developing technologies for the sector is very important, because these entrepreneurships in the first place are not going to be developing big business models, so they're not going to be easily financed. And the other thing, the last part of this, the part that I like to highlight the most of why the innovation is not getting to small producers, is the capability that the producers has to access to this kind of technologies. And when we talk about access to technologies, we're not just talking about something that it needs to be understood as connectivity. We understand the challenge that they have with connectivity, but technologies and innovations are designed to be able to work with that challenge. The small producers have access in some moment of the day or the week to WhatsApp and to connections that allow them to be connected. Maybe it's far apart and not very common, the opportunities that they have, but they do have it. So many times these technologies have a cost that the small producer cannot pay. The small producer does not have the capability to access to this because of the price. And that is where we need to distinguish a concept, that when we consider an innovation, when an innovation considers that the small producer is going to be a client or a user. And this distinction is important because when the technology is designed for the client is the one that needs to pay for using this technology. And that is what makes it more difficult for them because they cannot pay for that. But when the innovations or the technologies consider the small producer as a user and the client is companies of other type that can pay to have this this base of small producers as users, then that is how things start changing. So for me, there are 3 points. One of them is understanding that the entrepreneurships need to be closer to the real challenges of the small producers. Second, we need business models that are more adapted to the realities of the small producers. And third, we need to understand how the small producer can access to these technologies without being a client. So those are the 3 points. Thank you very much, Teresita. That's very clear. Now I am going to ask a question to Mr. Orion about entrepreneurship. He is a young entrepreneur. So how can we define a successful project with a technological base? Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I am glad to be here to be talking about these very interesting topics with you. Well, about the question, I think that this is very interesting because we know that there are different types or profiles of entrepreneurs in general, and the success can vary a lot based on the person. But at least from my point of view, I think that technology has a key role in all of the possible solutions that we are talking about today. And I consider that a technological initiative can change the life of the people, considering some small things. So developing technology just for the sake of it, I think that it makes us lose all the sense of it. So the important thing is to develop technology that has an impact. I have had the opportunity to talk to many entrepreneurs this week that are related to the agro business that are part of this project. And they come from different parts of Latin America and from different areas as well. And there's one point that I think that is very interesting, and it is related to the purpose. Technology makes sense when it has a purpose. And where these projects and these developments have the impact on the communities. So generating community, impacting, being able to change the life of the people, improving the conditions of social development and economic development of the producers and the communities that are around the producers, because we have the families, we have children, the elderly that are going to be impacted in a way or another with technology. So I think that that is one of the most important points, and that makes a lot of sense. And that fortunately, I am very optimistic that today we have entrepreneurs, men and women, that are looking for that purpose and to be able to maximize the impact, the social, economic, and environmental impact in the different communities. Many times, of course, when we see in the media, we watch the news, and then we realize that an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurship was successful, and we talk about millions of dollars, and it seems like that's the only success measure. But in a way that generates noise, because it seems like that is the real point of all of it. But it's not like that. Today, the biggest amount of entrepreneurs in the region, what they really want to do is generate an impact. And for me, very personally speaking, and because of the experience that I have had in the latest entrepreneurs, for me, the purpose is to make a difference. And if I can make that sustainable for all of the people that are involved in the entrepreneurs, in the entrepreneurships and the startups, that is a mean to be able to get to more people. Thank you very much, Christian, for your broader vision of success in entrepreneurship. Now we continue with you as well. Now, from your experience in the area, as an entrepreneur based on technology with Endurance Electric, what have been the challenges that you have seen in implementation and scalability in rural areas? Thank you. I am going to explain what is Endurance Electric, first of all. We are a social company, and what we want to do is to help communities in the rural areas to access to basic services, mainly to energy. So we distribute and we offer the service of solar power in rural areas. We have a technology that is called PSO. It's like a prepaid plan for phones, but this is applied for power. So that's a little bit of context. When we started with the project, we had an initial stage that was very successful because it's a service that has a lot of demand, and we started providing a very good service from the beginning. This is a solar power system that is for the rural families in rural areas. So we had certain components that they did not have: durability, batteries with solar energy, etc. And also this financing method with this prepaid method. So that was very adjusted to the economic and financial reality of the families. Many times in agricultural communities, they do not have a stable income, and that depends on the harvest they had on the different seasons. So we were adjusted to that reality with our program. In the first stage, we grew very fast, and we had adoption indicators that were very interesting because it was a project that involved the community a lot. They were very interested. However, in the second stage, when we said, okay, we have this ready, now how are we going to scale this to more people, and how are we going to scale this to the different communities? At least we are based in Chile, and the communities many times are very separate from one to the other. So scaling and replicating the initiative in other communities turned into a real challenge. Because from the business model point of view, we needed to start from scratch in each one of the communities, and also having different considerations, that the cost of each one of the users, because of the conditions, they could have a higher cost. So we needed to see how to replicate this, and this could be difficult. And also the pressure that we feel. I know that many times in projects of this type, the entrepreneur feels pressure to have more volume of sales and have more impact, and that is going to be measured in amount of families. So we have a pressure in the business model to get to more people. We are in rural areas where clients are very far apart from one to the other, and that is a challenge. There is a pressure to find or to take the service to places where we have a bigger population in this basic services, mainly in these utilities. So you get out from rurality, and then you go to a place that is more densely populated, and probably your cost of getting to people and knock on the door to offer this solar power system is going to be lower. And that is not good, because that means that the other people that are in faraway places are going to keep on having access problems. And that is something that not just myself, but many projects of this type in education, in agro, in power, etc., they have the same challenge. So that's why I think that it is very important and very valuable to think about collaborative models, because those models with a cooperation base could be adapted a lot to the geographic reality and the local reality of these communities, and that could facilitate the replicability and the scalability of a project such as this one. Endurance Electric is not the only social company that does this. There are other companies as well of this type. And due to the Latin American characteristics, many of them, most of them have had a similar problem. So I think that there's a lot of consensus that maybe the business model that is more traditional and associated to growth and growth and growth is not necessarily the best alternative for the communities. And I am very optimistic in that way. Today, we are seeing technologic changes that are very important and that will allow us to really find models that will allow us to reach more people and to scale and to grow. And for these projects to impact more people than we are impacting today.
Te agradecemos muchísimo, Cristian, por compartir tu experiencia.
Thank you, Christian, for your experience. There is a question from Chafino for Fabian. Through your Fundación Mapocho, what practices could help rural entrepreneurs to prosper? Fabian. That is a very, very good question. Currently, I find myself in the south of Chile. I am in a zone that is highly agricultural. We have faced various challenges, particularly with small-scale farmers. Many of these challenges have been solved through cooperation. There are two aspects that we have been discussing, and we believe that is very important to set forth: the connection between technology and the small-scale farmer, and how to tackle it in a very energetic manner, to resolve that in a faster manner, and how these small producers can have solutions that are not a one-shot exit, let's say, but something that can be maintained in the long term, as Christian was referring to, without the cost of the technology, so it could be sustainable in time. And I believe that at least the experience that we have observed in seeing on site how entrepreneurs can cooperate amongst themselves, how they can create this collaborative environment, it allows us to create that there is a future and a path. Small farmers, for example, sometimes don't have access to water. They get together and they create a rural drinking water generator. When they don't have internet, they meet and they cooperate to see how to access technology through a tower of internet installed, for example, in their property. When they don't have electricity, they collaborate and create a cooperative, an electrical cooperative. The question is, how can we use the creative potential, but also associative environment of these producers to be able to help them and bring technology to them? The solution is much closer than we believe. And not only about Chile, I believe this is a reality that is that has a Latin American profile. They have similar challenges. There might be specificity in each country, but the needs are relatively the same. But it creates a history where our indigenous people use collaboration and cooperation. We don't have to reinvent futures. We have to use what they had in the past to create a different future. And that's where small-scale producers have a possibility through associations, through common solutions that can be achieved. But I also believe that there is a responsibility of those of us that have the knowledge of scientific base to bring it down to the communities where it is extremely needed. At least I would like to separate this answer in two parts. First, we have to understand that there is an associative relationship here and that there is a potential of youth, entrepreneurs, as was given as an example. There are people that are seeking change and they're passionate about solving their problems, connect and provide them with a solution that's scalable in nature and help small scale farmers in the region. Thank you very much, Fabian. How important to incorporate the concept of collaboration. In that line, can you tell us a little bit how an agricultural cooperative works? How this could be an advantage for rural entrepreneurs? Yes, I would believe that agricultural cooperatives is a concrete cooperation because it has principles and values that are of common nature of other cooperatives that are based on international standards. Cooperatives, we find them all over the world with the same principles and the same values. But I would like to underline that the opportunity is not only thinking of cooperatives, but on the principles that guide them. Because for small producers, the cooperative or for the technological entrepreneurs, it can be something that there was a question in the chat that was asking how to attract investment for future AgTech entrepreneurships and how to do them on an associative manner. And that's what I ask myself. What we have to think of, we have to think outside the box. We have these tools. We have the principles of cooperatives. We have cooperation. We have mutual help as vector principles, but we can have other approaches. For example, the economy of well-being for common groups. We can use a new technology to install it locally, but not only at a cooperative, at the level of cooperative, but principles also that can help us solve these problems. And is there where the principles of the cooperatives teach us a great deal, because the agricultural cooperatives have used for hundreds of years. There are many cases of agricultural cooperatives that are extremely successful that is linked to one member, one vote, the democratic implementation of their companies to better access and more representatives of the problems that or issues that are triggered in the area or are there is a very large separation between Teresita was saying it. There is a disconnect between the young youth and the technology and farming. The cooperatives are born in the same community where the problem is. It is much, it's a much lighter way because we're all living the same situation. And this helps enormously to feed into the objective of that cooperative business that might have a result that is important. Another aspect that is very humanizing, if you will, but it is a principle that we can learn from cooperatives for all the entrepreneurial areas, the collaboration between or amongst cooperatives, how they are inserted into a cooperative ecosystem where they don't seek to compete, maybe to seek to collaborate with other companies in the sector, which allows them to grow and provide support to the small scale producers. For example, if there's an agricultural cooperative in a zone that is next to another agricultural cooperative and both have drinking water problems or power problems, they already have a solid basis of the people that are conformed. Why can't they unite and jointly find a solution? Why can't they jointly find a conclusion or a successful result to be able to have for example, jointly buy seeds or attain electricity or resolve their water issues. So I believe that that type of principle helps us to find solutions forward-looking, not taking the best of what we have from the past and implementing it in the present. Thank you, Fabian. For you, what role do you think young entrepreneurs play in the configuration of the future in that which have to do with innovation, sustainability, and climate action? A fundamental role, I would say, because there is a problem that's common to the entire agricultural sector. There is a lack of innovation and from the members of these cooperatives, this is something that you can see in the field. I have discussed extensively with cooperatives at the world level and locally because the cooperatives are aging, and therefore the small producers or farmers, those that are in charge of these, are aging. And this is a challenge to bring youth back into the field. There would not be a possible solution from our challenges when we talk about food towards a future if we do not think that there must be people that will continue producing the foods we consume on a daily basis. So I am a strong believer that we have to have a food solidarity where we can have food that can come from our own zones, productive zones. Therefore, it is very important to understand how those challenges can be tackled with a strong technological base that allows us to face things that have not been working for the small-scale farmer, but will generate um, produce or generate a new excitement into the field. They have accumulated a great deal of information. AgTech has been, AgTech has grown in these last years exponentially, and more, there are more and more entrepreneurs in agriculture with technology. The question is why, as Teresita was saying, why those technological entrepreneurs have not reaching quickly the small scale producers. And I would say that there is a gap there and an area we need to cover. Youth that think like Christian with a purpose, with social impact, that can help small farmers will be a success in the future. How do we create the next generation of social entrepreneurs that take on the gaps for food production in Latin America? I would like to respond towards the future. And how can we jointly create that new generation of young producers with all the knowledge that they are acquiring in the universities or in the technical centers, with all the information they already have, how they can go into the field and help small producers grouped and associated to create more efficient production that respect productive cycles with all the historical background and origins those small-scale producers have, but through technology, they can be more scalable or much more sustainable in the long term. Thank you once again, Fabian. A very important question. What is IU and what does it seek?
Por la pregunta. Creo que es un buen espacio para
Thank you
contarles
very
que,
much for the question.
o sea, desde ya, de hecho, está abierta la convocatoria.
From now, we have a space open that is called an intensive workshop, IU. This is a workshop that is going to take place in Santiago, in Chile, which is where we have the regional office of FAO for Latin America and the Caribbean, where we are going to try to respond to this question that we were asking before. How can we generate entrepreneurships that are based on technology that can close the gap between technology and small producers? And that is why I wanted to leave you with a link in the chat so that you can share it and you can check it out, because we're going to have an open invitation for all young people in the region. We really want to have this purpose and this energy of young people to help the agricultural area, where we are going to be selecting 10 young people from this group that are going to come to Santiago, and they are going to participate in a 5-day boot camp. So we are going to be reviewing all of the basics that we think are necessary to reimagine agriculture of the future applied to small producers. So I wanted to invite you from now to be able to share this link with all of the young people that you know that are interested about this area and that you think that can have a say in this area with a base that is equitative and just. And they can also be in charge of this problem that it is a big burden, but I am sure that our next generations are going to solve this, because there is no other path possible if we want for our environment and our agricultural and our sovereignty in food. This is not going to happen if young people are not involved. They have to be part of the solution. And also, we have a comparative advantage here. Many times, we ask young people, why are you not interested in the forest area or in farms? And well, with this, we can make them interested. So how can we create a technology or a technological development that is attractive enough and challenging enough for young people to start thinking about how to help in this area? And this is what we need to consider from now on. Thank you very much, Fabian, for your great response for the IO workshop. We're a little bit short on time, so we're going to finish this panel thanking all of our panelists for their great commitment and great contributions and everything that you have been sharing today. Thank you, Teresita. Thank you, Cristian, Fabian. And now we are going to be answering some responses from the audience that have been gathered in the 4 chats that we have. And I encourage you to keep on participating actively in this event. The first question, I am going to ask it to Christian. So how can we inspire and motivate young people in the region so that they are change agents in the agribusiness?
Muchas gracias. Buena pregunta.
That's a very good question. I think that
creo que lo veo un poco desde 2 lados. Primero,
well, I see this from 2 sides. Leadership is one of them. In general terms, leadership not only means something specific. We can all lead in different areas in our lives, in our personal lives. And I think that this requires a personal change. So I see problems, I see opportunities, and I can do something about this, even though it starts very small. And the other part is related to technology and how to be closer to technology. I think that today we have opportunities to be able to learn, for example, to learn about platform technologies and about certain concepts, about small things where I can start. And as entrepreneurs, many times we have ideas of possible solutions, and not necessarily we have all the tools to be able to create that. So we entrepreneurs are very generic many times. So getting closer to technology, understanding how to program something, understanding how platforms work, and that kind of thing, even though they're small parts, are going to help us and are going to maybe motivate us to understand that I can finally build something, build a solution that I had thought about for a problem that I have seen in the field. I see many opportunities today to be able to get closer to this area. The world is being totally digitalized, and the rural world, of course, is on that path too. So I motivate you to look at the opportunities here for professional development and also personal development associated to technology and digitalization. And many times there are small steps that we can take to start. Very inspiring words, Christian. Thank you. Now I have a question for Teresita. How can we improve access to resources to support innovation in agriculture? Well, those are very good questions. Concretely speaking, today, from the different areas of agriculture, we find that one of the biggest areas that are developed, one of the most important technologies called fintech, are starting to work with the challenges that small producers have to access to financing. Fintechs are really essential. They are for direct access to credit and financing products for small producers. And many of them are thought about for this segment. So they're very easy to use. They're very fast. They're simple, and the development of more fintechs that can reach the small producers is going to facilitate the access to credit and financing for this sector. For now, I think that we need to keep on raising awareness to the traditional financing sector, banks, and everything that is related to traditional financing, that they need to include in the way that they provide credit. They need to consider the reality of small producers. So access to credit with lower rates and that kind of thing. So I think that this is a conversation that we need to have constantly, because we need to have a change, or we need to achieve this change of mind in the traditional financial system. For now, the fintechs are an excellent tool to help the small producers. That's very clear. Thank you very much, Teresita. And the last question is for Fabian. How does the regeneration of ecosystem talk with the opportunities of development and investment?
Es una muy buena pregunta.
Well, that's a very good question, and I would think that we are in the best moment to answer to this question, because we have more and more interest in the regenerative projects. We have more interest in investing with social impact and with technology that generates an environmental and social impact at the same time. So I think that we are definitely in a good historic moment where we have interests already that are very concrete from different investment funds to be able to invest on these technologies. And I think that in the long run, if we think about this, there is no more efficient way to invest than in a regenerative project, because that means that this project can exist in the future. So if a company is generating a producing system, or it's generating a production that in a way it could reduce the damage that is done to the ecosystem, but the ecosystem is degraded totally around, so what future can we see in this with this project? So for example, if we are thinking about a sustainable agriculture, that sustainable agriculture maybe could be sustained with what we already have. But in spite of the fact that this technology could be sustainable, the environment is still being degraded. We're still having lack of water and extreme heat. So we need to go a step further and understand why and how we can regenerate the system that comes from the investment world, from that area that makes the world be more accessible for everyone. So I would think that there is a very good opportunity from different investment funds and different tools, financial tools, to be able to bring resources to an economy or to regenerative companies. And when we are in charge of concrete problems, that is very attractive for people that are trying to invest on those in those sectors. And I wanted to talk about one more thing, and it's when we see this in concrete, then I would wonder, well, how am I going to transfer this to reality? And it is as simple as thinking that, for example, when small producers need to buy or need to have access to a tool, to a tractor, for example, to be able to work in their fields, the question is, each one of the producers need just one tractor, or maybe they could have a tractor that is to be shared amongst the different producers. Do they need a tractor 100% of the time? No. So how can we use the technology that we have available today, for example, the technology that Uber has or other platforms such as that one, to have a shared tractor where one tractor is there for all producers? So that kind of thing is going to reduce the impact of the contamination of the tractor, the cost for the producers. It is a simple and concrete example of how collaboration, how cooperation amongst the producers can really be essential and key to be able to reduce the production costs, but also generate more sustainable practices. Thank you very much for your response and for such a great example, Fabian. And now we're going to give you more information about the intensive workshop that we're going to have in September, the IO workshop. And I want to invite all of the young people in Latin America and the Caribbean that are studying or that just finished an agricultural program and that have some that are interested in acquiring some entrepreneurship tools. We're going to project a QR code that will take you to the place where you can apply. So we are going to leave it there for a couple more seconds, but with this, we finish our event. And I want to thank our great panel for today. I want to thank everyone who is looking at us today. And with this, that's it for now. Thank you very much and have a great